Good afternoon, everyone. How are you all doing? Good evening. I know it's evening in West Africa. You are all welcome to today's event. My name is Decency. I'm going to be your anchor today. And with me here, we have Mr. Douglas. Mr. Douglas is an immigration lawyer here in the US, and he's going to be giving us some insight into H-1B visas, okay? He's going to be, giving us some insight about it, how to apply, what it all entails. So without wasting much of our time, I'm just going to spotlight Mr. Douglas, and I have given him the permission to share his screen if he has some things to share with us. All right, so Mr. Douglas, you're welcome to the program today.
Thank you, Decency. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. You're welcome. So I have given you permissions to share your screen. We are about 69 people here on the meeting, and I believe that we're going to be more than that. So just let your friends know, and I'm just going to hand over to Mr. Douglas to, give us more about the topic of today. Over to you, Mr. Douglas.
Give me 1 second, just opening up the PowerPoint presentation here.
Mm-hmm. All right, so while he's opening that up, I would just ask if you're here in this meeting and you have passed NCLEX. I'm not asking if you have gotten any agents. If you have passed NCLEX, can you go to the comment section and just say yes to me so that I will know how many of our listeners that have actually passed NCLEX? So, because those are the people that will be benefiting more from this event. If we don't have many people that have passed NCLEX today, it will be, needless for us to do this meeting. So Peace, yes, Peace was one of our own, Peace Yadipe. All right, so just let us know if you have passed NCLEX on the comment section, please. We're waiting. Yes, Arum, yeah, thank you. All right, so yeah, as you're doing that, Mr. Douglas is already sharing his screen. So just keep on letting us know your status, your NCLEX status. If you have passed NCLEX, just let us know in the comment section. All right, Mr. Douglas, are you ready right now?
I am, yes.
Okay, good. All right, over to you, sir.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's still morning in Arizona. It's afternoon and evening, wherever you are. I think I recognize some of the names of the participants in here, and it's nice to see you all again. Today, what I'm going to be focusing on is specifically the H-1B visa. And I have a short PowerPoint presentation. And the reason why I decided to do a PowerPoint presentation today as opposed to just talking is that because this is being recorded, people can take the time to go through the session after it's over, and then you can look through the PowerPoints, and they may be able to answer some questions you have without necessarily having to reach back out to us. And so I'm sure everybody's heard about the H-1B because we've done a session about it previously. So we're going to start with what the H-1B is. So the H-1B visa is a non-immigrant visa. It's a primary method for employers to recruit and hire international professionals and international students in some instances to work in the U.S. It allows the employer to hire the potential employee, the foreign national, for a specific period of time. It's also a dual intent visa. What that means is that typically when you go to the consulate to apply for a non-immigrant visa, such as a tourist visa or a student visa or a J-1 visa or any kind of non-immigrant visa, the primary thing you have to prove to the consular officer is that you have a non-immigrant intent. What that means is that you have to prove to the officer that you have home ties, you have sufficient home ties to your home country such that you will go back home. Well, the H-1B, although it's a non-immigrant visa, it's a dual intent visa, which means that you're not required to prove to the consular officer that you plan on returning back home. So even if you told the officer that you intend on staying in America forever, that's still fine because the H-1B is a dual intent visa. You can either prove a non-immigrant intent or an immigrant intent. And so if you get denied at the consular, it won't be because you didn't have sufficient home ties like you see with other kind of non-immigrant visas. And this one is specifically very important because that's primarily why people get denied for non-immigrant visas for most of the time. The third slide talks about who qualifies. Now, again, the H-1B visa is for specialty occupations, and specialty occupation is a term of art. It has a very specific definition, and you have to meet that specific definition to be eligible for this visa category. Decency, if I'm going a little bit too fast, let me know so I can slow it down. Okay.
No, you are doing just fine. Thank you.
Okay. So the qualification, you have to have an advanced degree. So an advanced degree is defined as a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or the foreign equivalent. Now, everybody who's passed the NCLEX has gone through credential evaluation. And so you've gone through, CGFNS or Joseph Silnin Associates has reviewed your credentials and determined that you have the equivalent of that to the American education system. And so you have to have a bachelor's degree minimum to be able to qualify. So it's one of those three things: a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, or 12 years of work experience, or a mix of further education and work experience. Now, the first two is typically something that is clear cut. You either have a bachelor's degree or master's degree, or you don't, right? That's pretty straightforward. The second one is that even if you don't have a bachelor's degree, let's say you're a diploma nurse, as most people are, you still qualify if you have at least 12 years of work experience in that specialty occupation. Now, specialty occupation is defined differently from just general nursing. If you're just a regular general staff nurse, that is not a specialty occupation. Specialty occupation has to be either med-surg, midwifery, anesthesia. I mean, all these nurse practitioner, all these higher something above just a general nurse, okay? And so you need to be able to have either a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or 12 years experience or a mix of the education and the work experience. And this one talks about the general rule of thumb. This is not the law, it's just a general rule of thumb that we legal practitioners use to see if you're eligible. So for every 1 year of studies that you have at a university or college, you get 3 points. So if you did 4 years of college, that's 12 points, right? For every 1 year of work experience that you have, you get 1 point. So you need 12 points in total to be eligible for the H-1B. So let's say you did a diploma, which traditionally is 3 years. That means that you have nine points, right? So 3 times 3, 3 points for each year times 3 years for a diploma, that's 9 years, right? And you need 12 points. So you need to have a diploma plus a minimum of 3 years of work experience to qualify for the H-1B if you're a diploma nurse. Typically, we prefer people who have a minimum of a bachelor's degree, and the agency that we're specifically recruiting for, Flint Staffing Agency, they specifically require a minimum of a bachelor's degree anyway. But for all of you other people who have contracts with other agencies, you may be able to ask them whether or not they're willing to offer you this avenue. Now, how is the H-1B processed? Just like the EB-3 visa, it has a premium processing. Okay, so the regular processing, it's cost effective, it's cheap. It's only $460 to the employer, but it takes on average 6 to 8 months to get approval. Now, we've seen people get it approved in a month. That was back in the day. Now it's taking much longer than that. The employer can choose to pay for premium processing, just like we have for the EB-3. And if they pay for premium processing, USCIS has to give you a decision within 50 days of receiving your application. So it's much quicker. You can get an approval in less than a month if your employer decides to pay for premium processing. So here's the application process of the H-1B. Now, before I talk about the application process, there's something very important that I include in the slide, which is the different types of the H-1B visa. There's a limited amount of H-1B spots available each year. And so there's 2 ways in which the employer would fall under in terms of sponsoring you. One of them is the cap-exempt method of filing, and then the other one is the cap subject. The cap subject means that there's only a specific number of visas available. And the employer, everybody in the US and everybody in the world is competing for those slots. And so there's a lottery system. The employer puts your name in the entry in the lottery system. And if you get selected, you can move on to the next step. Okay, you can move on to the actual H-1B application. If you don't get selected, you don't get to move on. Okay, so that's the cap subject H-1B, and that lottery system is opened once a year in the spring of every year, and you get a decision of whether you're approved or not in a couple of months. I think 2 or 3 months you should be able to get a decision as to whether or not you're approved. All employers who have specialty occupations qualify for the cap subject H-1B. Then we come to the cap exempt. The cap exempt just basically means that the employer doesn't have to do any lottery, and they can apply for H-1B throughout the year. They can apply for you anytime. They don't have to go through the lottery and get selected. Only specific employers qualify for the cap exempt category. There's institutions of higher learning. So if you get a job at a university hospital, those are cap exempt. Non-profit healthcare facilities, those are also cap exempt for the H-1B. There's some hospitals that have attained a magnet status. A magnet status is a status that is bestowed on certain hospitals in the U.S. that have achieved a certain level of care. Kind of like the elite hospitals that have meet the requirements to be designated as magnet hospitals. So those are the hospitals that qualify. So if you look at the qualification criteria of the agencies that can do the cap exempt, you will notice that no staffing agency qualifies, because staffing agencies are not they're for-profit organizations. They're not nonprofit organizations. They're not teaching hospitals. They're not institutions of higher learning, and they're certainly not magnet accredited institutions. And so most staffing agencies, if not all, don't qualify for the cap exempt. The trick is that there are some staffing agencies that can connect you to a hospital and have the hospital file for you directly. And so Flint is one of them. I think Connectus used to do that at some point, where they facilitate the contract signing process, but it's a direct hire. You're working directly for the hospital as opposed to the staffing agency, but it's still through the staffing agency. You get to the hospital through the staffing agency, but the hospital is the employer as opposed to the staffing agency. If you're in that position, then you may be able to qualify for the cap exempt, which means they can file for you at any time. Okay. I know a lot of you are going to have questions on that specific process, because that's going to determine whether or not you go faster or you go slower, and we can open the floor for questions at the end of the presentation. So here's the typical application process for the H-1B. The first step is that the employer gives you an offer, the staffing agency gives you an offer. You read the contract, you choose to accept. If you accept, the employer or the sponsoring company files the H-1B petition on your behalf. And again, applications are job specific, which is where the specialty occupations come in. So the employer cannot just say, I just need a general nurse in this hospital. They have to say that I need a midwife, or I need a nurse anesthesiologist at this hospital. It has to be a specific job offer. It cannot just be the general contract that we typically see. The employer can be an individual, a partnership, or a corporation. The visa, and here's the other important one. Unlike a green card, the H-1B visa is only valid for work with a specific employer. So if employer A files the H-1B for you, your stay and your work in the U.S. is dependent on that employer. And if the employer revokes their H-1B sponsorship or filing at any time during the process, you are required to either find a new employer who would petition for you or leave the country. So that's the downside. With a green card, you can work for anybody. With an H-1B, you're stuck with that employer until you get a green card, or until the employer extends it for you, or you figure out another visa. So USCIS requires employment letters which provide the following information: specific information addressing the job title to be held by you, which is the specific occupation we talked about, the exact duties to be performed by you, the dates of employment, information regarding the supervisors, managers, and co-workers. So this is a very, very specific, the employment offer has to be very specific. It cannot just be a generic employment offer. So the next thing after that is the actual wage versus the prevailing wage. Now, most of you are familiar with the prevailing wage determination, if you've gone through the EB3 process, or you're thinking about the EB3 process, the prevailing wage determination is the wage that the government tells the employer that is the minimum they have to pay you. It sets the floor as to what the employer is required to pay you. Here, the actual wage is determined by comparing other workers in the same positions with the same level of experience. The actual wage is the wage rate paid by the employer to all other individuals with similar experience and qualifications for the specific employment in question. So that's what the actual wage is. The actual wages they look at, it's basically like comps. They're comparing your qualifications to what the employer would generally pay a similar person in your position in America. That's what the actual wage is. And you already know what the prevailing wage is. We submit the prevailing wage determination application to the Department of Labor. They come back to us and tell us what the prevailing wage is. So that's the difference between the prevailing wage and the actual wage. When a company decides to sponsor a visa, an inevitable part is how much would be paid for the H-1B employee. As part of the H-1B petition process, we're filing the LCA. The LCA is the labor condition application with the Department of Labor. The sponsor employer must pay the H-1B employee the higher of the actual wage at the workplace or the prevailing wage in the industry. Now, there's two ways by which the employer determines what to pay you. Now, the prevailing wage is based on where you live, the cost of living in that specific area, your qualifications, your job description, your job functions, and things like that. Whereas the actual wage, they're looking at other nurses in your position, how much the employer is paying those actual nurses. The government is saying that the employer has to pay you, the nurse, the higher of either the actual wage or the prevailing wage. So, for example, if your prevailing wage comes back at, say, $40 an hour, and the employer is paying other nurses in that position $60 an hour, the employer has to pay you the higher of the prevailing wage or the actual wage. And so in this case, the actual wage is higher than the prevailing wage, and so the employer must pay you the actual wage. If the actual wage that the employer is paying the other people in there is $40 an hour, and the prevailing wage comes in at 60, the employer must pay you the prevailing wage. So it's whichever is higher between the actual wage and the prevailing wage. Okay, this is good because it ensures that because one of the big concerns is pay. How much am I going to get paid? This specific regulation ensures that you're paid equal to the people that are working there. And if for some reason the people that are working there are making less than the prevailing wage, the employer has to pay you the prevailing wage. And so it's a win-win situation for you. You're either going to be making the same as the people that are working there, or you're going to be making higher. There's not going to be any circumstance in which you're making lower than the people that are working there. So it's a win-win situation for the foreign employee. What is the labor condition application? The labor condition application is a certification that the employer sends with the H-1B approval. You have to send that to the Department of Labor before you actually file the H-1B petition itself. So it's kind of like on the EB3 process, it's kind of like a perm certification. Now, nurses are Schedule A, so they don't have to go through perm certification. But the LCA, the employer has to file the LCA, the labor condition application, with the Department of Labor before they can file for the H-1B application itself. Now, none of this really means anything to you because your lawyer is going to be taking care of this, but you don't really have to worry about this part. I'm just explaining to you how the process works. So what is in the LCA? The LCA must contain the basic wage information, the work location, the rate of pay, and also the period of employment. It's kind of like the 9141, the prevailing wage determination, except that it's a different form, but it carries most of the same information. Okay. The H-1B sponsor must also make the standard attestation. The attestation is sort of an affidavit or a promise of the H-1B employee will be given the same benefits as their other workers, and the pay will be the higher of the actual wage at the workplace or the prevailing wage in the industry. So the employer has to make that promise to the government. So if the employer doesn't pay that, you can sue them. No, not that any of you are going to do it, but you have the right to. if they break that promise, they violated the law. The H-1B employee would not affect the working conditions of the employers employed in that area. Example, vacation, hours, fringe benefits, no strike or labor dispute at the place of employment. So if the place of employment has had a strike or a labor dispute, they don't qualify to apply for the H-1B because the employer has to make these attestations in the LCA. Okay. When the LCA is approved, the Department of Labor will return a certified copy to the H-1B sponsoring company. The sponsor company must post 2 notices at 2 conspicuous places, 2 obvious places, at their business places for 10 days, or provide notice of the filing to the collective bargaining representatives of the employee. After the Department of Labor accepts your LCA, then the employer can file your H-1B petition. Now, the H-1B petition itself, again, this is all things that your lawyer would take care of. The filing, these are the required documentation, the forms, the fees, the documents, and the information. The Form I-129, it's something that your employer would take care of. But you must provide your education and experience evaluation and documents, training certificates, professional memberships, your resume, employment agreement, and the letter of support, a copy of your ID card or a copy of your passport's expiration page to make sure that you have a valid passport. Decency, can you still hear me?
Yes, go ahead. I was trying to locate the person that was distracting us, but go ahead. I'm still here.
The processing times vary depending upon the service center and the visa. It could take a few months, or it could be quick as less than 2 months. Like I said, it depends on whether the employer files for the premium processing for 1, and 2, it also depends on the processing times of your local embassy. If the H-1B employer can show a substantial need for the employee, USCIS might approve the petition sooner. Employment cannot begin until USCIS has issued the appropriate visa. Okay. So what's next after your employer files for your H-1B? You get a receipt, just like you do for the EB-3. The sponsoring company is sent a receipt by USCIS Service Center, which bears a 9-digit reference number. That's your receipt number on your typical receipts. H-1B processing times and general information about the petitioner and the foreign worker. This is the petitioner's first confirmation that the petition is in the adjudicating queue. So when you get the receipt, you know that USCIS has got your application and you're in line. Okay. A notice is generated by the sponsor and mailed to the applicant, which is you, notifying him or her of this receipt and outlining the information on the processing times. That's what the law firm or whichever lawyer you're working with is supposed to do. They generate a notice. They send you the notice telling you that your H-1B has been received, has been processed, and then advising you of the processing times and what is next. Now, this notice also warns you not to resign from your current position or make travel arrangements until your H-1B visa petition has been approved. So if you're working in Nigeria and we apply for your H-1B, don't go sell your house, don't quit your job until you receive the H-1B visa approval. There's no guarantee that it's going to be approved, even if the employer follows all of the steps. So you always have to make sure that you have the approval in hand before you make any life-altering decisions. The petition approval, generally a case will be approved within or on the designated time frame outlined in the USCIS receipt. Okay. The consulate services. This is where after the H-1B is approved, what happens next? You do a consular processing, just like you do with the EB-3. The H-1B visa beneficiary then applies for personal and family visas at the consulate, which is you submit your you submit your DS-160 to your local consulate. Normally, you apply at the consulate that is closest to where you live. Visa processing takes 2 to 3 days. Now, when I say 2 to 3 days, this is based in Canada. Okay, for Canadians who are applying for H-1B, they can get a visa processing within 2 or 3 days. Now, if you're in Ghana, Lagos, or Douala, your processing times can vary wildly depending on the processing times of your local embassy. And there's no way for me to know exactly how long that process will take. But if you go to the interview, your processing time and everything looks good, your passports are returned with the valid H-1B visa stamp, and you and your family may enter the U.S. with the H-1B visa. The filing fee and the cost, the employer bears all of the filing fee and the cost, and so you don't have to worry about the filing fee. So I'm going to skip over all of these fees because you're not supposed to pay any of them. Now, how long is the H-1B granted for? The H-1B is initially granted for 3 years, and you can extend it for another 3 years. The maximum amount of time you can be on an H-1B is 6 years. If you exhaust all of the 6 years, you have to leave the US and go back to your home country for a minimum of 1 year before you can reapply for the H-1B. So this is very, very important for people whose ultimate goal is to have permanent residency. Because when you arrive in the first 3 years, your employer must then file for your I-140 through the EB-3 process so that you're in queue, so that when retrogression goes away and your priority becomes current, you can change status from an H-1B to a permanent resident. You can adjust status from H-1B to a permanent resident. If you or your employer don't do that and your time runs out, you have to leave the US for a period of 1 year before you can return. And so when you arrive in the US on the H-1B, I know you're happy, you're glad to be here, but the job is not done. Your long-term goal is to become a permanent resident, and it's your responsibility to make sure that your employer files an immigrant visa petition via the EB-3 for you so that you can become a permanent resident and don't run into this pitfall. Once the 6-year cap is reached, you must be physically outside the US for 1 full year to reset the 6-year clock and apply for a new H-1B. I've already talked about that. Now, dependents, who can come with you on the H-1B? Your spouse, unmarried children under the age of 21. Okay, those are the people that can come on the H-1B. The visa that they get is called an H-4 dependent visa. Okay.
Sorry about that. I'm just gonna put her in the waiting room.
For your spouse or the H-4 dependents, for them to get the H-4 visa, here's what they need. Let's see. They need their full name, date of birth, place of birth, marriage certificate, birth certificates, copy of their passports. I mean, the typical stuff that you need for your EB-3 visa dependent applications anyway. Transfer. You can transfer your H-1B petition from one employer to a different employer if the other employer is willing to sponsor you. So you can always transfer it. You cannot just use an employer H-1B petition from employer A to go work for employer B. If you want to work for employer B, you have to transfer your H-1B from employer A to employer B for you to be able to legally work for them. Okay. Multiple H-1B visa petitions allowed? Yes. 2 or more employers can file for your H-1B visa petition, but you can only work for one employer at a time. So if 3 employers file and all 3 of them get it for you, you have to choose which employer you want to work for. Now, this is a gray area because the employers are paying money to attorneys such as myself to file these petitions for you. And so sometimes there's a temptation to get a bunch of employers to file H-1Bs for you to increase your chances of getting it. But you have to keep in mind that these companies are literally paying money to put you through this process. And so there's a little bit of ethics and integrity that has to be on your part to make sure that this is a fair process for you and the employer. Here's additional resources where you can get some more information. Not that you're going to need to do it because this is not something that you can petition for yourself, but these websites all have different and additional information to what I've shared in this PowerPoint presentation. And so I know I've sort of sped through it, but this is a high-level general overview. It talks about the basic things that you need to know about H-1B, how long it takes, who qualifies, which employer qualifies, how the employers can pay you, and whether or not your dependents can come, and more importantly, how long it takes for you to arrive in the US. So that is the end of the presentation. If you have any questions, I will be happy to take them at this time.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Douglas. That was a very concise, brief, but straight to the point presentation.
Oh yeah, use
Best,
your vehicle.
best I've
Use
ever
your
seen
vehicle.
so far. Thank you so much. We are going to take questions now. We've had some people coming and going and unmuting themselves and talking in the background. It's not ethical. Whenever we're having Zoom, we don't allow that. So I've been putting people in the waiting room. If you are not muted, I'm gonna put you in the waiting room. I will ask you guys to unmute now and ask your questions. Hello, everyone. Yeah, so but we'll take it one after the other. So we're gonna start with those that raise up their hand. So if you can raise up your hand, I'm gonna ask you to unmute your microphone and then you will ask your question. But meanwhile, we have some questions in the comment section. We're going to take some of that questions now before we take from people who are willing to talk. But before you can talk, make sure you have very quiet environment so that we can hear you very well when you're communicating to us. All right, so first question on the comment section says, good evening, sir. Please, is H1B, okay, with H1B visa, can your spouse work? So is the spouse going to be able to get a job if he's a dependent of a H1B visa application? That's the first question.
Yes, H4 visa dependents are authorized to work.
Okay, so the answer to that is yes. So, Leke, and I hope the answer is very clear to you. So, and also Leke is also asking, can one file H1B visa while? Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, let me qualify that. H4 dependents, they're authorized to live and study in the US. But if they want to work, they would have to get their own petition sponsorship from an employer. So an employer would have to sponsor them. But they're not authorized to work just by virtue of being an H4 dependent. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So just because they're your spouse doesn't mean they can work under your approval. They have to get their own employers who can sponsor them to work. Yeah, but
So,
they're allowed to go to school.
but the sponsorship doesn't mean it has to go through the same process that the other spouse went through.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, they have to go through either an H1B petition themselves, or they can do an EB3 visa. I mean, they have to get their own employment sponsorship, but they're not allowed to work just by virtue of being your dependent.
independent. Okay. All right. And another question from Leke says, can one file H1B visa while your EB3 is still in process?
Yes, yes. I mean, there are two different types of visas. The H1B is non-immigrant, and so you can have an H1B and an EB3 at the same time. But again, the employer is spending a lot of money to put you through this, and so you might have to disclose that to the employer so that the employer knows what they're investing in. It's not ethical to have one employer sponsor you for an EB3 and then have another one sponsor you for an H1B just so you can get here sooner. It's an expensive process for the employer, and so it would be a good idea to inform them and then see if they're willing to do that.
That's good. All right. The next question from Chinwe is saying, please, what are the important questions to ask your employer and which agency filed for H1B visa?
Well, different H1B visa is available to every employer in the US. Um, in terms of which employer files it, there are some employers that prefer the EB3 because it gives you a green card. Because the H1B, when they file for the H1B, they get here sooner, but then they have to file the EB3 subsequently, which means they're paying twice for your petition process. And so it's a business decision on the part of the agency. Your question to the agency would be that, are you willing to file for an H1B petition for me so I can get to the US sooner? And if you are you also willing to file for an EB3 for me when I arrive in the US so I can become a permanent resident? The employer may tell you that, no, we only do EB3, or no, we only do H1B, and that would be your answer. But those are the two-part questions you should ask. If you just ask them that, would you file an H1B, and they say yes, Well, they file for an H-1B. When you get here, you don't get the EB-3, right? So you have to ask them those two-part questions. Will you file for an H-1B so I can get here sooner? And if you will you subsequently EB-3 when I arrive there so I can get a permanent residency? And that would be the answer to your question. In terms of which agencies are currently doing it, Flint Staffing is the agency that we're currently recruiting for, that is heavily recruiting on an H-1B because they have a huge need, and they're willing to do both, do the H-1B and then also do your
B3.
EB-3 subsequently. Yeah.
Right. And to add to that, this is what Mr. Douglas and I is doing today is to just let you know the everything about H-1B visa so that it's up to you to make that decision. But if you make the decision to go forward, you can get back to us. I have something I've been reposting on the EPG group, and I can also share it here, like an email for you to reach out to us if you are interested in working with a hospital or an agency that does H-1B visa, which allows you to come here faster. If you're interested in doing that, you can reach out to us and then we can, start scheduling an interview and all that. And I bet you the process is expected to be very fast and is not like retrogress like EB3. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and take more questions. The next question is from Cynthia. Cynthia is asking, is the H-1B visa the same with B1, B2 visa?
No. A B1, B2 visa is a tourist visa, business or pleasure. That's the B1, B2 visa. And on a B1, B2 visa, depending on whether you have a business visa, if you have a business visa, it allows you to be able to do business activities. It doesn't allow you to be employed. Those are two separate things. And typically, if you get a B1, B2 visa, you can have a multiple entry visa, which means you get a 10-year visa that allows you to travel to the US for 6 months at a time. And as long as you don't violate that, you can keep coming and going, but it doesn't authorize you to work. The H-1B visa is specifically for work, right? You're coming here for a specific job at a specific location based on your specific education or work experience. And so those are the two different. One is for tourism, one is for employment.
Okay. Thank you so much. If you have any more questions, we have more. Sorry, I thought the questions are exhausted. Okay, let me keep going down. So the next question is from Chizaba. He's saying, "Hello, good evening. How easy is it for one to get an employer that can file H-1B for you and can still file I-140 when you come over?" It's very simple. I'm dropping the recruitment email, and just reach out to us with your resume, and then make sure you meet all the requirements, like you have your degree, you're working in a specialty, and then we'll schedule an interview for you. Okay. Chizoba, I hope I will send the email across like in a short while. You want to add to that, Mr. Douglas?
No, I mean, yeah, how easy it is pretty easy as long as you meet the qualifications. We have Flint. Flint is looking for everybody and anybody who would qualify. I understand they've been on our necks to getting people, and so there's employers out there, and you just have to find the right employer. You have to keep in mind that the pay is which is one thing that I've been hearing a lot of, is that people are concerned about the pay. Well, your pay is heavily regulated by law, and so there's no instance of an employer. I mean, unless you're going with an employer that is not reputable, but there's no reputable company that would bring you to the US and pay you less than what the law requires them to pay you. I mean, that's a huge liability, and so the pay is going to be comparable, across the board. And so what you need to be worried about is whether or not the employer can do both H-1B and a subsequent I-140 filing for you. And what is the reputation of that employer? What kind of work environment does that employer create for other employees? And that's very simple to do. I mean, a simple Google search of the employer, you'd find a bunch of reviews and a bunch of people who've previously worked for that employer, so you can gain information on the employer. I keep getting questions about direct hire versus staffing agency, and the employer going to do this, they're going to do that. I mean, you're nitpicking on points in the contract that doesn't make any sense or have any consequences whatsoever, based on what your friends are telling you. And that's the wrong way to do it. I mean, if you're a nurse, you're educated, read the contract and think for yourself, figure out what works best for you and your family, and stop listening to people. Read the contract, do some research yourself, and you'll be able to make good decisions. But you need to look into the employer that is making you the offer. Don't just look at the money or how long you're going to be working for them. I mean, you want to come to America to work. So what does it matter if you're working for somebody for 2 years or 3 years? I mean, you're coming here to work. And so if it's a good employer, what does it matter if you're working for them for 1 year or 2 years? I mean, they're paying you good money, and you're going to have a chance for career progression, right? But I keep hearing people complain about, well, this employer says 2 years, this employer says 2.5 years. I mean, this is not slavery, right? It's not like you're working for an employer who is going to sort of infringe on your rights or maltreat you. These employers are bound by law. They have to treat you as specific. They cannot treat you any different than they treat American nurses. I mean, and you have the protection of the law. And so these things that people are typically worried about in terms of how long am I working for them, and things like that, I think you're looking at the wrong things. You should look at whether or not this company is a place that you want to work for. Instead of, I also get people asking me, well, how much does it cost to break my contract? I'm responsible for interviewing for some agencies, and the one question that determines whether or not I offer a person a contract is if during the interview they ask me, how much does it cost for me to break my contract? If somebody asks me that, you're automatically not
Right.
getting a contract. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, right? If I'm interviewing you and you ask me, well, how much money do I have to pay you to break the contract?
Right.
To me, it tells me that right at the outset,
Yeah,
you're
you're
making
already
plans
talking
of
about.
paying. Yeah, you're making
Yeah.
plans of paying me specific money to
Mhm,
get out of the contract. You
mhm.
know, whether it's $10,000 or $20,000, you have to keep in mind that these companies that are offering you this position, even if they spend $5,000, I mean, most of them spend $15,000, $20,000 to get you to the U.S. in terms of legal fees, your flight tickets, and things like that. So you giving them $20,000 back doesn't do anything for the company. The company makes money by you working in your assigned health facility. That's what's most beneficial to them. And when the company brings you here, they've promised the hospital that we're bringing this nurse to the US, and this nurse is going to work for you for 2 years. And so when you come here and then you decide not to work for the company and you think you're just going to pay them $20,000 and going away, what you're doing is that you're damaging the business reputation between the staffing agency and that specific employer. So it goes beyond money. And so when you come to an interview and you're asking me, how much does it cost for me to break my contract? Quite frankly, it's an insult.
Mhm.
you know,
Right.
it's a waste of both my time, the company's time, and the fact that we're trying to sponsor you to come to the US. This is an opportunity for you to change. It's a career altering opportunity for you and your family. And your mind needs to be in the right place. You need to think about the things that are most important, and not just listen to your friends and ask questions that will be detrimental to your future. Now, I went on a tangent there based on some of my personal stuff, but these are the things that people are looking at when you're in interviews.
You are perfectly in line, Mr. Douglas. Actually, it's been on my mind because I consult for some agencies too, and most of the things we've been seeing is some hospitals coming up to say, I do not want people from this particular country in West Africa. And it's just so baffling that whatever people do at their job here in the US is affecting other young nurses, those people who are still in nursing school that did not commit any offense are going to be affected by the decisions that you take and make. So these are some of the things that have ripple effects. It has it's gonna affect you, it's gonna affect the company, and it's gonna affect the people back home. Okay, I know some of you are already thinking, everybody has like a bad mind in him. So you have this mind telling you, okay, why don't you why don't you come in through H1B, have them do your I-140 and then break the contract and run off and go and do travel nursing. See, it is not a good plan. Let me just tell you, it is not and God will not support any such plan because it's not a good plan. So plan to come here and make a decent living for your family, for you and your family. So just put your mind in the right place. So what we are trying to do, no one knows how long the retrogression is going to last. Okay, so we've seen some agencies, we are very familiar with this. A lot of agencies are just pursuing people, granting them, giving them contracts and all that. But most of the times, after giving you contracts and they do your I-140 regular application, they just leave you like that. And that is just like a lock in. They just locked you in. Okay, so in your mind you've gotten an agency, but in earnest, those agencies are just locking you in, waiting for the time for them to proceed. So this is actually an opportunity for people. If you want to take this option, we've given you what we call like open disclosure. Everything good, everything bad about H1B has been discussed. If you want to progress with this, go into it, go with a company that is reputable. And then when you get in there, if you sign a contract to do the 2 years, do your own due diligence, do your research. But when you come over here, do the 2 years. And then after the 2 years, you can go wherever you want. It's not, you're going to know that you have some friends and family members in Texas and you keep quiet. And then they bring you here. Immediately they bring you here. So you know what? I'm not coping. Do you have any contracts in Texas? If you don't have, I'm breaking my contract. Why? Because I have family members in Texas. I want to go to Texas. It's not a good way. You keep making things difficult for some of these hospitals to actually look in the direction of your country. Let me not even say your country, your whole country. It's not even your profession because everybody is going to be affected. All right. So that's just my own little Mr. Douglas, you were really right by going there, and everything you said were quite in line. Okay. So let me not derail again. We're just going to go ahead and read more questions. We have one question from someone, his name, okay, he didn't give a name, he's just taking note. And guys, please, kindly, when you come into a Zoom meeting, always try to put your name. So I find it difficult when people just put dots or Zoom user or just put a name so that when we want to address you or Infinix X669, something like that, just put a name. When I want to address you, I address you properly. It is better like that and more professional. All right, so this one says, thank you, sir. During the time of visa screen application, I chose permanent green card in visa type. Do you think that this is what I'm supposed to choose or anything else?
What do you mean the visa application?
So, visa screen application is like the CGFNS visa screen. So when they were filling out the form, I believe you did it unassisted. So there's a place where it asks you what kind of visa are you applying for. And I think you're right by saying permanent green card because that's eventually what you will get when you come over here. But if you have
Yeah,
anything to say, Mr. Douglas.
yeah. I mean, it depends on if you're doing an H1B, then it's not a permanent visa. It's a temporary visa.
Yeah.
But if your petition is an EB3 visa, then yes, it's a permanent one.
Yeah. All right. So I think he's also raising his hand to ask a follow-up question. So I don't know if you're a guy or so. I've asked you to unmute yourself so you can ask your question. Techno Camon 15.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
So you answered that in a bit regarding the green card I chose in my visa screening application. Because before now, I don't know, all these H1B and other one, they were there, but I never knew any other one except that permanent green card. So that's by the way. Then regarding the issue you are talking about regarding the recruitment,
But
I
Mary,
want
what kind of visa are you applying for?
I don't really know because after I passed my NCLEX, they said the next step is for you to apply for that visa
Okay,
screen.
visa screen. So you've not gotten an agency. That's what you mean, right?
since it stays up to 5 years. So that's why I just did it. So I never had any recruitment for now.
I think you're seriously misinformed. Visa screen doesn't take 5 years.
No,
I'm not sure.
she means like a validity of the visa screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're being sponsored by an agency, the agency pays for your visa screen. So if you're paying for your own visa screen, anyway, I mean,
Most of them
yeah,
do pay for it and then get refund from agencies. So most agencies will give them the money back
okay.
just to save
So,
time. That's why most of them do it, to save time of the visa screen application. So they go ahead, pay for it. Then when the agency comes, they show the receipt and then get a refund.
okay.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm also interested in getting an employer if possible.
Okay, so I'm going to be putting down an email address. You can send your resume to that email address, and then we will get you scheduled for an interview. Okay.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. And let me just go ahead. Mary, I will come to you later, okay? I know you have question and your hand is raised, but I'm gonna go ahead and read more questions from the comment section. I'll come to you later. All right, so I have Nneka Okeke. Nneka Okeke is asking, I said, thank you for the great information. For someone that has already case complete and waiting for interview date, is it advisable to try H-1B visa?
No, no. Well, it depends on if your priority date is current. If you're just waiting for an interview, and you apply for the H-1B visa, it's not going to hurt how quickly you get an interview, but chances are that you're going to get an interview quicker than an employer can go through the H-1B process. Because like I said, if your employer is doing the cap-subject one, March is the earliest that you can get into the lottery. And between now and March, I mean, we have 6 months. So chances are you might get an interview date before then. And so if you're waiting for an interview, I think you're far along in the process that I mean, it's not going to hurt your application, but I think it's just a waste of time and effort.
Right. I hope your question is answered, Nneka. So someone is asking, Martin Awe is asking, does an adopted child qualify for a dependent visa? I guess this is with H-1B. Before you answer, Mr. Douglas, let me just chip in something again, because I don't want to forget. So I have on top of my head, I can count about five of my friends, very good friends, went through the process, smooth process, very fast process, and did everything. And they tried to bring in somebody as an adopted child. And then it was noticed in the embassy. I don't know what happened. I think the child was older than their marriage. So they begin to ask questions. And from there, the EB3 application and everything got denied. In fact, it was like they put a caveat on it. It says it's an attempt to traffic a child. So it was termed like a child trafficking. Okay, so be very, very careful with adoption. I know a lot of you are looking at, how am I going to cope with, child care when I get there? I better get somebody who is going to take care of my child. Just be very careful. I'm just very honest with you guys. It has put like 5 people off the track. Like they start considering New Zealand, Saudi Arabia, and other countries to go because there's no way with the US anymore. Okay, so don't burn the bridges. Save yourself before you save others. But Mr. Douglas, you can answer that question now.
Yeah, I think you answered it. If somebody's not your biological child, I don't recommend adopting somebody after you found an employer to sponsor you. Even if you backdate, because I know that this happens all the time, where you backdate the adoption papers and to make it look like you've adopted 5 years ago. All of those things are bound to backfire. And so the safest thing for you to do is save yourself first, like Decency said. And then when you're arriving in the US, there's always ways that you can bring somebody after you get here. It doesn't make sense to jeopardize your own application by trying to include somebody else. So always save yourself first. And then once you get here, you can figure out ways to help other people.
Sounds good. All right. So Techno is asking again, Techno Common 15. Is it possible to apply for permanent green card for registered nurses to work in the US?
Is it possible? Yeah, I mean, that's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah,
This whole thing.
exactly. That's what I thought. Okay. Uh, Leke is just saying Avant and Flint. I don't know if Avant is currently doing H-1B visa application. I haven't, maybe I missed it, but I have actually been following Avant updates. I don't know if they are doing it, but I know for sure that Flint is doing it. I know for sure a lot of other hospitals that we work with, are also doing that. So I don't know about Avant. I won't say for that. So you are okay. Then Eleke is saying I am in the group. Oh, okay, since I passed this, I am not okay. Wait, I'm just reading Leki's messages. All right. Arom Glory is asking, can someone with a diploma get a direct hire without any specialty?
Well, like I explained in the presentation, you have to have either an advanced degree or 12 years experience, to be able to be eligible for the H-1B. And so if you have a diploma, that means you don't have an advanced degree, and so you need the experience to be able to qualify.
Yeah, all right. I hope that answered, that answered your question. Mary is saying, can one change H-1B visa to spousal visa? And I guess Mary, I don't know if you're still here, but she raised her hand before to ask question. But I don't know. Can you give us a little insight about the spousal visa, Mr. Douglas?
Yeah, so a spousal visa is basically a family-based petition where you get married to a U.S. citizen, and the U.S. citizen or permanent resident, and they petition for you. So if you come here on an H-1B and you end up finding somebody, you fall in love, you get married, they can certainly petition for you, and you can adjust status from an H-1B to a permanent resident. So yes, the answer is yes, you can do that.
Okay. Thank you so much. And then another question from Chinwakaro said, please, boss, I need email. Okay, I'll send that to you. Please share your contact for those of us willing to pursue H-1B visa. That will be sent in shortly. Then Mary said, do Avant and Flint have job openings in Florida? I specifically want to work in Florida, Jacksonville or Daytona Beach or Tampa.
I know that, well, I don't know about Avance, but Flint has got contracts nationwide. And this is a question that you obviously justify to ask them during the interview when you have the interview with them. I don't know exactly what the needs of the hospital, are, or what the needs of these agencies are. And so these would be good questions for you to ask them at the interview when you have them.
Okay, thank you so much. And then that's it. Then another person is asking, Chinwokara said, please explain more on what the consulate needs from you during your interview for H-1B visas.
Yeah, that's a good question. The consulate is looking at two things. Okay, the first thing is the eligibility for the visa. The second thing is whether or not you are admissible. Those are two separate tests. The eligibility for the visa, the consulate is looking at, are you the actual person that is applying for the visa? Are you the person whose passport is in front of them, right? They're looking at, do you have the qualifications to qualify for the H-1B? Do you have the degree? Do you have the experience? Basically, is this application legitimate? The second one they're looking for is admissibility. Admissibility means, have you ever broken any laws so as to make you inadmissible to the U.S.? Have you ever overstayed your visa? Have you been denied a visa in the past? Have you been accused of fraud? Have you been accused of child trafficking? The thing about the adoption and all of that, all of those things come in play. And so if the consular officer determines that you're inadmissible for whatever reason, they'll tell you, or they'll give you a notice that explains what the reason that you're being denied for. But those are the two things that they're looking for: eligibility and admissibility. Those are the two things the consular officer is looking for.
Okay, and then let me go up again and start. Yeah. Okay, then I have one more. Okay, I have so many other questions. Say, good evening, sir. Please throw more light on H-1B visa. Must one go back to his country and reapply, or is there any other process to go through towards getting EB3 while in the US without returning to one's home country?
Yeah, I mean, I covered that in the presentation. When you get the EB3 visa, you get it for 3 years, okay? And then you can extend it up to another 3 years, so total of 6 years. If within those 6 years, you did not find a reason or an employer to sponsor you for permanent or an EB3 visa or a spousal visa, or if you don't find a way to become a permanent resident in those 6 years, you have to leave for a period of 1 year. You have to spend a full year outside the US to be able to reapply for the H-1B. Okay. So the initial one is 3 years. You can extend it for another 3 years, no more than 6 years. If you don't do anything within those 6 years, you have to go home for a year before you can come back.
Okay. I guess that question is answered. It was covered actually in the presentation. So Mary, I've asked you to unmute now. You can ask your question, okay?
Good evening. My name is Mary. So I have this question because I am married to a citizen who is based in Florida. And I have an issue with him right now because we are contemplating whether do a spousal visa or just come over and change my status. He's bent on me coming over on my visiting visa and then he will apply for change of status. But I'm not comfortable with that idea because I know the risk that is involved in overstaying your visiting visa. So that's I'm still a bit confused on that area because I really don't know why he's insisting on coming and change your status. And another thing, I'd apply to some agencies and some hospitals directly for employment. There's a particular one I did interview with, and as soon as they learned that I am married to a citizen, the next thing they said was my husband should file a spousal visa for me instead of then filing for the EB3 because one, because of the retrogression, two, if they made mention that if they found out in the embassy that I am married to a citizen, they will be like that would be might be a kind of obstacle and they'll be like, why isn't your husband filing for you and why do you have to do that? And that can cause another bit of delay. So I'm kind of confused because I don't really know the best way to go. So I seriously need an advice. So because of that, I didn't really move on with that agency because up till now I've still not I wasn't comfortable because of all those excuses they were giving to me. So, and I refused to even start any process with me in the first place. So I just didn't bother to continue with them anymore. So right now I'm confused. Is it the fact that my husband is a citizen? Can it affect my application, like going through the work route or maybe applying for this HB1 visa? And can it actually affect it, or what's the best route for someone like me? Is it a best idea to go and change my status while I look for a job? Because I know if I go there to change my status, I will be out of work for a period of time, and that can also affect my employability. So I'm just kind of confused right now. What do you think is the best advice for someone like me?
Well, Mary, I think that you have a lot of options. Okay. Now, regarding what the other company told you, I don't. I am not in the business of reading the minds of consular officers, and a lot of the things that they told you are based on speculation. I don't really speculate. I just tell you what the law is, and then we can either strategize or you can make a decision as to what you want to do. So let's start with the spousal visa option. Let me ask you this, do you currently have a B1, B2 visa?
I have a B1 visa, which will expire in June next year.
Okay. Now, a B1, B2 visa is a tourist visa, and before you get that visa, you have to demonstrate that you have a non-immigrant intent, which means that you promise to go back home, okay? There's lots of people who come here on a B1, B2 visa and subsequently get married with no repercussions, okay? There's nothing in the law that says that you'll be prosecuted or you'll be denied a visa if you come here on a B1, B2 visa and subsequently get married and apply, as long as your marriage is bona fide, which means that you didn't just get married for the purpose of immigration, you have a pre-existing marriage. That's what the law says. Okay, that's not me reading the mind of the consular officer. Now, you have the option of coming here on a B1, B2 visa, and subsequently you're already married and then having your husband petition for you. That's the quickest way for you to come to America and the quickest way for you to get a green card. Okay. Now, when you do that, you're basically sort of working the system. Now, is that illegal? No, it's not illegal, but it's working the system. And the officer at the port of entry is the final person who determines whether or not you have an immigrant intent. So when you come to America and you get to the airport, the customs officer there is going to ask you, when do you plan on leaving? Do you plan on staying? And all these other things. And if he determines that you plan on coming here and then having your husband file for you, he may turn you away and say that you have to have your husband file for you because you have an immigrant intent. Now, some people, when they get to the port of entry, they lie to the consular officer, which is a crime. And so that's where the dilemma is that if you get asked that question at the embassy, you have one of two options. You either tell the truth, and if you tell the truth, it means they'll potentially send you back and have your husband petition for you. Or you don't get asked that, or you lie, in which if you lie, it's a crime. And so, or sometimes you don't get asked that question and you don't have to worry about it. And so that's where the sort of the dilemma is. But it happens all the time. People come here and they end up getting married and changing their status. There's no repercussion, doesn't affect there's no real consequences for it. Okay. In terms of the sponsorship, if a company sponsors you and you're married, being married does not prohibit or inhibit you from being sponsored for a visa petition. I mean, it's your decision whether or not you want your husband to sponsor you or if you want to come through an employment-based sponsorship. That's a personal decision that the consular officer should not sort of interfere with. I mean, there's nothing that says that if you're married, you have to get sponsored through your husband, right? And so being married and a company sponsoring you, those are not mutually exclusive. I mean, it should not have any effects on your application whatsoever.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So those are the options. I mean, you have the option of coming here on your tourist visa and then subsequently having your husband adjust your status. And hopefully you don't get asked anything at the airport to put you in a position whether you have to tell the truth or lie. My advice is always to tell the truth. Lying to the government is not only illegal, it's also may prohibit you from other immigration benefits in the future. But those are the options that you have. You can either have your husband petition for you, you can come here on a tourist visa and later have your husband petition for you, or you can have the employer petition for you right from the get-go. Those are the three options that you have.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So Mary, I wish you all the best, and I hope you choose the right path and come here as soon as possible. All right. So I'm going to go ahead. Mr. Douglas, you still have some time, right?
Yeah. I've got some time. There's a fight tonight that I'm interested in watching. Francis Ngannou is fighting tonight, so but it hasn't started yet. We've got a lot of time.
Okay, let's do this then. Let me just take the questions a little bit more questions. Now I have Chinenye Paul Ejiba is asking, good evening, sir. Please throw more light on H-1B visas. Must one go back to his country and reapply, or is there any other process to go through towards getting EB3 while in the US without returning to one's home? I think I read this question before, right?
Yeah, I think it's a different question, but we already answered it, so it's probably answered. If she has a follow-up question, she could always ask.
Okay. Now, the next question from Dr. Okorogu Obina is he's asking, what is the fate of the retrogression for EB3 visas, sir? I mean, the visa bulletin.
Yeah, I mean, nobody really knows. Retrogression, when the new visa bulletin came out earlier in September, actually, for the new fiscal year, it moved forward by 12 months. So now retrogression is only 18 months as opposed to 3 years originally. And there's a lot of the petitions have dwindled, which means that not a lot of people are applying for the for the I-140. They're looking at other visa options, H-1Bs and B-1, B-2s. And so the demand is going down, which is what retrogression is meant to do. And so we hope that the visa bulletin becomes current. Is going to become current at some point. There's a huge nursing shortage. And so the government at some point is going to have to address it, but nobody really knows when. But there's it's moved forward some. We think it's going to continue moving forward. As to how much and how fast it does, I have no idea.
Okay, Dr. Obina, I hope your question just got answered. Super Nurse, I don't understand your question. You can ask that question again. I think you were trying to talk to someone. You say you fulfilled your promise. Okay, let me go down a little bit more on the questions. Please, hope one will not have problem during visa interview when one provide marriage certificate of 2023 from registry while the person has marriage certificate from church since 2004.
Yeah, I have this is a very weird scenario. I have a client right now from Nigeria who this is sort of a tangent, but it sort of answers your question. So this client that I have, we're representing them on appeal with an immigration petition. He was married in Nigeria. His ex-wife passed away in Nigeria, and it took him 6 years to get the wife's death certificate. Okay. Apparently, according to Nigerian law, when your spouse or anybody dies, you have to get a death certificate within 60 days. Apparently, that's what Nigerian law says. And so this person got it 6 years later. And so he was denied that the wife's, USCIS said his documents were fraudulent because not only did he not follow Nigerian law, he did it 6 years after, and he provided no explanation as to why he did it 6 years after, and we're fighting it. The answer to your question is, it depends on what Nigerian law says. If you get married in the church, how long after that do you need to get your marriage certificate, right? In some states in the U.S., typically it's 24 hours or 48 hours, or sometimes they mail it to you a week or so after. So I would say look at the law of Nigeria and figure out whether or not, if you have a church wedding, how long after that do you need to register your marriage with the government, and make sure that it complies with the law of Nigeria. And if it doesn't, you may be in for some hurdles in the future.
Yeah, I've seen that twist too, but I'm glad that you answered the question now. Okay, so Leke is asking. Let's say I think you're our top fan today. Leke is asking, must you have a facility to file your EB3, or can you do it yourself? Can you employ yourself? That's basically
No,
what.
Leke, I think that's a fantastic question. The visa that you're thinking about is called an EB2. EB2 National Interest Waiver. You can petition for yourself if you can prove to the government that your employment is in the best interest of the country, right? You can do it yourself for an EB2. An EB3, though, you need an employer to file for you.
Okay, sounds good. Someone is saying thank you. Imal Bong said, thank you so much, sir. I really appreciate you. And then we have Fumilayo Wolabi. He said, can someone who has not written NCLEX get an employer?
Well, there's some staffing agencies out there that are sponsoring pre-NCLEX candidates, and so maybe those are the people that you look at. But again, for you to get an H-1B, you need to be ready. So you need to pass your NCLEX and have all of your documents in order for a company to consider you for an H-1B. But I think what you're looking for is a staffing firm, or staffing agency that would sponsor pre-NCLEX candidates. That's what you need to look out for.
So now, me and Mr. Douglas, we're actually discussing something yesterday. We haven't finalized, but we are looking to get very, very, will I say, consistent students in the academy who have been very consistent and self-sponsored, that are having challenges with finances, that we can sponsor for the NCLEX process. But we are going to be your employer, so which means we are going to take care of your employment, and you're going to sign a contract literally with us, and we'll sponsor your process. And we want to start with 10 people. We are still looking at how that is going to work out first. So if if you're in the academy, if you're in the virtual class, if you're in any of the classes, just know that our instructors are watching. We're going to ask them to nominate for us and we'll also look at your grades and we'll choose people that we can give this privilege to, and we'll sponsor them and make sure that they get to the end of their process. Okay, so just keep working on your dreams and let's see how that goes. You want to add something to that, Mr. Douglas?
No, I think that's it. When we're done, I have a program that a friend of mine is working on for physicians, and if I'll share the information when we're done towards the end, and we can take it from there.
Okay. Okay, then you have Ibekwe. Ibekwe say, can someone apply for H-1B visa before passing NCLEX?
No. Part of the H-1B visa is that you have to prove that you're authorized to work in the state that you want to work in, and you cannot have a license to work in the U.S. without passing the NCLEX, right? So you have to pass the NCLEX and all that before you can apply.
Right. Then someone also, Leke, you've been everywhere today. So Leke says, please, sir, can someone with specialty in pediatrics and still working in the department but no degree be filed EB3 visa? Experience is 14 years in pediatrics.
Yeah, I mean, for the EB3, you don't need any experience. You just need to have the license.
No, sorry, he's asking for H-1B, sorry.
Yeah, if you have 14 years, then yeah, certainly you have more than 12 years of experience, right? That's the requirement, is 12 years. So if you have 14 years in pediatrics, you certainly qualify.
I'm wondering if we can prove that because some of our partners are just saying that they need the degree, they don't need the experience. Well,
this person is asking whether you qualify. Now, qualifying is one thing, and then the companies also have their specific requirements.
Criteria.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Flint wants bachelor's degree, but you qualify if you have 14 years of experience in pediatrics. It doesn't mean Flint is going to sponsor you, but you do qualify. You just have to find a company that's willing to take somebody who doesn't have a bachelor's degree.
Okay, we have one more question. It's from Bisirat. It's asking, can someone who has priority date for EB3 apply for H-1B visa? Basirat.
Yes.
The answer is yes, but we put a caveat to it. Some agencies are already applying for your EB3. You have your priority date. I want another agency to apply for your H-1B. That's going to be a lot of companies spending money on you, and ethically, it's not right. So you might need to let the other company know your plan and probably agree with you that what you're doing is in line with their permission for you to proceed or something like that. It might not be a yes that you will get from those companies. They might say no. So, but it depends. But we're just giving you full disclosure. What you need to know is not kind of, you can do it, but it's not right. So please, someone is asking, please, I need to confirm this agency, Visa Solution Healthcare. Well, we are not here today because we're going to be posting this online. We're not here to critique any agency or cancel any agency or say something bad about any agency. What we want you to do is get the contract from this agency and we can review it together. We can look at it together and we can tell you what stands out or interpret some of the words that are in the contract for you. And with that, you can make a better informed decision. So I know that, answering questions like this always, the agency is going to always come out and say, you said this about us, you said this. No, we're not doing that. Today, if you have any contract with them, bring it and then we'll look at it together, okay? All right? Because I've had agencies before that came to me and say, oh, you control a lot of people in Africa, and then you said this about us. So we are very, very, very careful about what we say about agencies. But we can tell you from their contract what they are giving you, what they are offering you, and what you might probably get from other agencies based on our experience. Okay, then someone is asking, who is this? All right, sorry about that again. All right, so we have another question from Banjo. Banjo is saying, please, I need to, oh, wow. A lot of people want to confirm Visa Solutions today. Okay. I saw that from Supernos too. And then we have a question from Arum Glory saying, between direct hire and agency, which is better and faster? Again,
yeah, that's a question that I've been asked several times, and it comes again, when I went on my tangents, that's what I was trying to say. It comes down to the specifics of the contract. Now, a direct hire is a hospital directly employing you, and hospitals, typically are not in the business they're primarily in the business of providing healthcare. And the people that are doing the sponsorship is their HR department, which may or may not be versed in immigration. Okay. The staffing agency, though, that's what they do. They recruit international nurses, and that's their bread and butter. And so sometimes when you're working with a direct hire, the process is much slower than you would with a staffing agency. Because staffing agency, that's what they do. They've been doing it for a long time, and they have a streamlined way of doing it as opposed to a direct hire. In terms of compensation, the staffing agency's compensation is based on the prevailing wage determination. And so is the hospital. The hospital has to pay you a minimum of prevailing wage determination. And there are some instances where you may find that direct hire pays a little more than staffing agencies. And there are certainly some staffing agencies that also pay more than the direct hire. And so it always comes down to the contract. What are both people offering you, right? Take both contracts, read the contract, and decide what is best for you. Because if a direct hire may be good for one person, but bad for the other person. If, for example, like the person who said that they want to work in Florida, specifically in I don't remember.
Beach.
Yeah, Daytona Beach.
Daytona Beach or Jacksonville.
Right. Those people. If you work with the staffing agency and the staffing agency files your application for you, with the current retrogression, you're looking at about 2 years before you can arrive in the US. With a staffing agency, the need may change. It may be that when you arrive in the US, they no longer have a position in Daytona Beach, and therefore they have to place you somewhere else other than Daytona Beach. For the direct hire, if you get a hospital in Daytona Beach, that hospital is going to employ you whether you come 10 years or 50. And it doesn't matter how long it takes you for you to arrive in the US. There's that certainty that you're going to work in that specific hospital. Whereas with the staffing agency, there's, you typically most of the time don't have that certainty. And so if you're somebody who is flexible, it doesn't matter whether you're working in Daytona Beach or you're working in other places, but for somebody who says, I just want to be in Daytona Beach, then the direct hire will be the best option for you. So again, it comes down to your specific circumstances. Look at the offer of both places and make a decision that is best for you. At the end of the day, if you sign a contract, you are the one who is going to be forced to perform according to the obligations in the contract. It's not going to be your friend. It's not going to be me. It's you. You are the one who is going to actually do the work, And so read the contract and choose the one that is best for you, specifically for you, not just generally. I cannot give you a general answer as to whether or not staffing agencies are better than direct hire. You have to read the contract and decide that for yourself.
Yeah, contracts are different, okay? Especially now that before we used to know the contents of all contracts. Like if you mention any agency, I can, on top of my head, tell you what they are offering you and everything. But now that we have different hospitals employing themselves, there's a lot of diverse contracts out there. So you will need to really look at the terms of engagement, terms of the contracts, and then know which one that works best for you. And then there's something, again, one of the major reasons why the direct hires pay is always more is because they do, apart from doing the staffing agency is just going to do the prevailing wage and pay you off of prevailing wage, but the hospitals do market adjustments. So if they have other competitors around them, they would like to pay as much as they are paying so that staffs will not keep on quitting from one hospital and shunting to another one just because of a difference in pay. So they always want to be competitive in their payment. So that market adjustment also is one of the major reasons why you find that some other hospitals may offer what seems to be higher than what staffing agencies are offering. All right. So, but whichever way, just look at the contract, know what you're signing, go for what is best for you and your family, and then get here, and the rest will be history. All right. So we have Chinwe Okara. Okay, I think we answered that question, and then Cynthia is asking, sir, I did post basic nursing after my diploma, and am I qualified for H1B? So I think, to save you some strength, I think post-basic nursing is actually a specialty. And if you have worked in that specialty, I think you qualify. But you need to be in that, you need to have gathered like up to 12 years of experience in that area for you to be able to qualify for this. Okay, qualify, remember, qualify in the essence of in the real sense of it, what we mean is that you, by the terms of requirement from the USCIS, you do qualify, but the other agencies will now tell you the criteria with which they are choosing people. So you will be the one to look at that and know which one works well for you. All right, we have Techno come on and say, please, I want to ask whether bearing a different surname, why my husband bears a different name, because I have not changed my name to his, because we got married after I got my visa to UK, and all my documents bear my father's name. So I decided not to change it until 2025, when my passport will expire, so that I can apply for a new passport and then have the change of name done at that time. Please, do you think it will affect me and or him regarding moving to the US?
I don't know whether that would affect you. That's the honest answer. It always comes down to, the reason why you're doing something. If your intentions are pure and you can prove that, then that's fine. There's no law that says that when you marry somebody you have to take their name, and you can do a change of name at any time.
Yeah.
And so if you're just able to prove that and show that there's no weird stuff going on in the background, I think generally it should be fine.
Good. And also, to add to what Mr. Douglas has said, it happened to me, and I know a whole lot of people that it happened to. So my wife didn't change to my name when we went for visa interview, and it didn't affect her. It didn't affect us. It didn't affect the process. We're still able to come over here. But just for me to give you a little bit of insight. So when you come over here, you will be able to change your name with your social security and all that. But for you to change your name with your green card, that's the USCIS, it takes a lot of time. They told us 1 year, but we are still in the process of changing it with the USCIS. So if you can change it prior to going to your embassy, I think it's better than coming here and going through all that lengthy process. Okay, so that's just what I want to tell you. But it's not going to affect, so far as you have your marriage certificate, that is bona fide marriage certificate, it shows that you guys are married, and it shouldn't be any problem, because that's what we had and that's what we went with to the embassy, and it wasn't any problem, and we still haven't had any problem right here. All right. So Edidion Oka is asking, say, thanks for the presentation. I got every other aspect, but I missed out on how long H1B visa takes. Okay, so what's the duration of filing? How long does it take to for H1B visa to come out?
Well, again, you have to first go through the lottery process, and if you get selected, you apply. The employer has to apply for the LCA, and then you apply for the H1B. The H1B itself, there's an option for premium processing. If the employer chooses the premium processing, they have to make a decision within 15 days of receiving it. If the employer decides not to choose premium processing, then it could take anywhere from 6 to 8 months to get a decision on the H1B. So with premium processing and everything, I think you can expect to be in the US within 6 months. If the employer decides to go with the premium processing option, that's 6 months after you've applied, right, for the H1B.
Okay. All right, just to mention this in passing, I've also been posting Mr. Douglas Calendly. If you want to book an appointment with him, if you have like very, very important, I don't want to share his contact because he's a very busy man, I'm trying to make sure that what he gets is actually people who really need help. So, but if you have a need and you feel like you want to talk to Mr. Douglas and you have passed your NCLEX, you should be in our EPG group. I share this appointment calendar. So it's like a calendar that gives you the option of choosing when you have to book a meeting with him. So you can book like a 15 minutes meeting or 30 minutes meeting with him if you are an EPG. I mean, the exclusive pre-arrival group that we have, if you're in that group, then you will see his Calendly. He's been posted there several times. So you can book an appointment with him and talk to him about some of these challenges, and he will be more than happy to assist. Okay, so and that's actually thanks to his benevolence. I know most of the immigration attorney here, to get them for 1 hour is like $500. So we really appreciate what you're doing for us, Mr. Douglas. We don't take it for granted. Thank you so much. And we have another person, Chinenye is asking, please, sir, can someone be on contract with 2 staffing agency? I think we've said it here before. It's possible, but it's not good. You can if you want to. If you say can, yes, you can. But is it wise? Is it right? No, because those staffing agencies both of them are spending money on you, and at the end, you're going to choose one and leave the other. Okay, and then the other people might actually come for you and ask you to pay them for damages. And damages is different from the actual money that they spent on you. So when they say you're paying for damages, it might actually mean you're paying for things that were not even spent on you. Maybe things that are projected to have been gains or profit they would have made from their relationship with you. So it's always good to tread carefully, so you don't land yourself in any trouble. All right, so another person is asking, do you need IELTS to get H-1B visa when you are already working as a registered nurse in the UK?
Yeah, because the IELTS is based on it's an English proficiency exam, and there's an exhaustive list. I think there are 7 countries. But yeah, I think there's about 7 countries that if you were educated in those countries, exempted from taking the IELTS. And so, for example, if you had your nursing education in the UK, you were exempt. I don't think that just for the fact that you've been working there makes you exempt from the IELTS requirement. A good place to get that information is the CGFNS website. So go to CGFNS website under visa screen. You should be able to find the answer to that question. But it's typically based on where you had your education, to see if you're exempt from taking the IELTS.
So also to add to that, so sometimes we've been having problems because some African countries like Ghana and Nigeria were literally taught in English, and we're thinking that these English-speaking countries will include us as countries that are taught in English and prevent the IELTS issues and people having to write IELTS. So, but that hasn't happened, and I don't see it happening anytime soon because it's an institution already. So but what I'm saying in effect is that IELTS has always been a criteria for you to get your visa screen. So what qualifies you to get your visa screen is your English proficiency, and then your board of nurse. That's the professional certification, like your NCLEX or anything that you have passed professionally. Those 2 things qualifies you to get your visa screen. So if you don't have any of them, you might not be eligible to get your visa screen. So I believe English, you should actually, if it hasn't expired, you're in the UK, before you got to the UK, you did take your take your IELTS, but it's not transferable. You still have to present an unexpired IELTS to the CGFNSB for them to give you a visa screen. But the good thing is, if you have already taken your NCLEX, you can actually that's where I advise people to do this visa screen on their own, because if it's about to expire, if your IELTS is about to expire, you don't want to go and start reading again, you can apply for this visa screen and have them grant that visa screen when your IELTS is still active. when it has not expired. So when you get it, you can have 5 years to use the visa screen. And you can actually, it has happened to me. I wanted to get a license in DC. I didn't have the requirement like IELTS and everything, but what I did was I gave them my visa screen, which was still active. And then they know that for me to get my visa screen, these are the requirements, and they use my visa screen to grant me that that license in DC. So that's the thing. You can always do it. If it's about to expire, try to process it before it expires. If it has expired, I think you should take another one and get your visa screen if you have written your NCLEX. Okay. Next question from Chinwe. Chinwe says, boss, if the agency that want to file for H-1B visa didn't talk about the amount they want to pay you, what do you do?
Well, like I explained earlier, the employer has to pay you the higher of either the actual wage or the prevailing wage. And so you could ask them what your pay rate is. I mean, you have every right to know how much they're going to be paying you. But sometimes, sometimes they give you a range, or they don't share it, and they pay you when you get here. But you have to be rest assured that when you arrive in the US, if the employer, the company is a reputable company, they will follow what the law is and pay you the higher of either your actual wage or your prevailing wage. But if you really want to know, just ask them.
Right. So, and then some other person is saying that there are some direct hires that are paying low rates also, like between 30s to 40s, even though they are direct hires. So thank you for the information. And then another one, please. If you have a relative or friend who owns a hospital in the US, can the person employ you without sitting the NCLEX? Oh Lord.
Yeah. If they're employing you as a nurse, there's no way for you to work as a nurse in the US without taking the NCLEX. There's absolutely no way. It's impossible. If you have a relative that owns a health facility and they want to employ you, they can petition for you and employ you through the unskilled worker EB3 category. And then, obviously you're affected by retrogression and all of that, but they're not going to be able to employ you as a nurse. You cannot work as a nurse in the US without taking the NCLEX.
Okay. So I mean, those that are still in the NCLEX classes, I think there's a class that is supposed to hold now, and the boss is ready to start the class. So we're going to rush the remaining questions. If we don't take all, I'm sorry, we can do this again, maybe next week. Okay. So Basirat is saying, I had my first child 3 months after I registered my marriage. I hope it won't affect him during the visa interview.
Oh, no. I mean, again, these things, it all depends. Is it really your biological child and all of those things? I mean, if you could prove that this child is yours and then all of that, you shouldn't, the timing has no bearing. I mean, it has no bearing whatsoever, because there's no place on the application that asks if you're pregnant, right? The application doesn't ask whether you're pregnant or not. And so having a child is, after you've already applied for the petition, is not something that's going to negatively affect you.
Okay. All right. So someone said I'm not in EPG. If you're not in EPG, then and you have passed NCLEX, send me or any of my admin a message. You'll be put in that group. So another question from Elizabeth. Elizabeth, my children are bearing their father's name, and me and my husband are bearing his own father's name. Hope this will not affect our immigration process. This name reflects in my husband's passport. So it won't also. I was in that situation too. My children bear my name as their surname, and I bear my father's name as my surname. It's not a problem. So it won't affect you too. It didn't affect me actually. I guess it's not supposed to affect you because I know a whole lot of people that did it before me and it wasn't an issue. So that's why I'm giving you this response based on experience. Okay. So Awesome says, I don't know if it's okay to ask this question, but I would like to know if the country still gives citizenship by birth say you migrate to the country and have a child in the country while the child gets citizenship by birth, and this citizenship roll on the remaining family members. Okay, so yeah, Mr. Douglas, please, this question is for you. Like he's
So
asking, like she comes here to give birth. After giving birth, maybe giving birth to the third child, for instance, and then after giving birth to that child, and that child is a citizenship, would the citizenship roll over on other children? You know, because their brother is a citizen. I don't know.
no. You cannot. A person does not derive citizenship by being a sibling of a U.S. citizen. Now,
Exactly.
there's a petition that your siblings can petition for you. It takes about 16 years. You know, if a U.S. citizen wants to petition for their sibling, it takes a very long time. And even before that, the petitioner has to be a minimum of 21 years to be able to petition for their sibling. So no, the short answer is no. Citizenship does not roll over to the other siblings just because one became a U.S. citizen.
Okay. All right. And then someone is asking, please, boss, can someone without a degree be eligible to apply with the email link you provided or the promised? Okay, yeah, I've sent the email link. Well, the ones that we have now is only we want to, go with the people that have their degree, because we want to make sure we are getting, hitting the target on all the requirements. I don't know, Mr. Douglas, what do you think? Because I know you'll be in this.
I think you answered that, so should be fine.
All right. So now go to the next question. And that question is okay. It said, please, how can I join EPG? If you have passed your NCLEX, and okay, now what you do for me is I dropped a number here. That is my number. You can chat up that number and then we'll put you in the group. Okay. It's for those, specifically for those who have passed NCLEX. That's the EPG group. All right. So GOPD is asking, boss, you did not attend to the so many people are asking questions about visa solutions. I do not know these people. I will have to like do my inquiries or do my research about them. I do not know visa solutions. Do you know visa solutions?
I don't know who they are. If you want to know about a company, go online and
Read
do
reviews.
some research about them. Yeah, I've never worked with them before. I don't know who they are. But yeah, you can find them on the internet and do your research.
Okay, where did you send the email, boss? I will send it again before we end this meeting. So please, could you, someone is saying, please, could you send the email again? It will be sent. So please, boss, I joined later. Can you explain? We are going to repost. So if you're not following in our social media platforms or our YouTube, please kindly go there and follow, because every program that we have, because every Friday we'll have a program, every program that we have, we post it there. So we want you to be able to go there and look at all the other ones that we've had, and this one will be posted there shortly. Before the end of today, it should be on our page, so you can go there and listen to it. I will also send the link to all our platforms, so the link for the video, so that you can pick the link there and go and listen to what we discussed. Okay, we don't want to keep going back and forth. That won't be proper use of time for those that came early. All right. So thank you everyone for listening and coming in, joining in, all your input, questions, and everything. We really appreciate. So, but right now we're just going to give Mr. Douglas said he had something to share. I'll give him opportunity to do that. Then after doing it, we will say goodbye, and then that will be it. Okay.
Yeah, I have a colleague of mine is starting a company, and the company is an agency, but it's a different kind of agency that is recruiting physicians. So the way that it works is that this person would pay for the physicians to take all of the required steps that they need to take to come here. He would secure them, pay for their residency match, accommodations, vehicles. I mean, basically, he's going to be their manager throughout the entire process. The physician doesn't have to pay anything, but when and then this person would also find contracts for the physician, and the minimum amount that the contract would say will be $225,000 to $250,000 a year for when they graduate residency. in exchange for 25% of the person's salary for X amount of time. And so if you know any doctors that want to work in the US, have them send me their resumes, and I can connect them to this person if this is something that they're interested in.
All right, thank you, Mr. Douglas. So if you're interested in that, I'm actually organizing a career fair by the end of November. So I'm going to bring in so many opportunities that we've come across this year. This year alone, we've made huge progress. I can't even imagine how far we've gone, and we've connected with so many reputable people, companies, and all that. So we want to organize like a career fair where all these people will come together and share to you guys what they do. It's going to be in November. I have not fixed a date for it yet, so because I have not gotten a yes from all the companies that I want to invite, but we are close to it. We are close to doing that. So I would like you to keep staying on all our platforms, and this career fair will be posted in all the different platforms that we have. All right, so thank you so much, and I really appreciate everyone for coming. And for
Thank
Mr.
you.
Douglas, I want to say a very big thank you to you for always honoring our invitation, always coming here whenever we need you to. On the comment section is all our social media handles and our YouTube, our Instagram, our Facebook. You can go there because all the programs that we have is usually shared on this platform. So you can go there and follow us there. And then, like I said, if you're an EPG, because these are the people that will start talking immigration, we don't want to bother those that are still in the pre-NCLEX phase with all the immigration stuff because you don't need it. But if you're an EPG, and you need some, immigration assistance, Mr. Douglas is always here. And if you know some people who are already here that might also need some immigration assistance, you can also share the Calendly with them, and then they will be able to schedule an appointment and speak with Mr. Douglas. Also, we have so many other things that we're presenting. Like last week, we had somebody who was willing to borrow you guys money that you will use for your flight ticket and all that if you're coming over to the US. That process is still ongoing. Some people have applied for it and others are still asking questions about it. So if you need money for you to book your flight, like you've gotten your visa and all that, but you need financial support, we can also connect you to someone who is able to loan you money at an interest, and then at the end, you will pay the person back. But at the end, I just want to say a very big thank you to all of you. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for all the all the contributions and questions that you gave. I think the top fan for today is Leke. Leke actually was on point, asking questions everywhere and giving us a run for our time. But thank you so much. All your questions were very on point, and thank you for your contribution. All right. So, Mr. Douglas, you have any final word for us?
No, thank you very much, guys. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I wish you all the best of luck.
All right, I'm going to stop recording now, and then I will see you guys next week, Friday, in another presentation. All right, thank you, and God bless you. Bye, everyone.